Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Project Dress a Girl 2025. This is an annual event, and all of the details can be found at the link that I just shared in the chat. I've pinned it to the top. If you, at the end of this video, say, yeah, I'll make a dress or two, just go watch Mari's video, and she gives you all the details, what kinds of patterns, what kinds of fabric, everything. So I don't have to go over that. Yay, Mari. So let's start with the pattern I'm using for this year. This is Project Dress a Girl 2025. I'm using this pattern from Simplicity 9020. It's a really old pattern. I think it's 1994. And I'm going to go over some questions that have popped up as I go along from people on either YouTube or Instagram. Somebody noted your dress doesn't have pockets. And I just want to tell you, if you have a pattern that does not have pockets, snitch some pockets from a different pattern, but also pull out the skirt piece that shows the position of the pattern, of the pocket on the pattern. And I actually have the pieces for this dress that I traced out. And that's another thing, because you're going to use these patterns over and over and over and over and over, hopefully. You will not want to cut your tissue because this pattern is no longer available. People have said they've checked Etsy, they've checked everywhere. So if you want to keep the life of a pattern that you found that it works great, please take the time to trace it out. So when you're tracing, I want you to also make sure you're putting the mark that says waist on it. So again, mine didn't have pockets. So what I did is I took the pattern piece from the pattern that I snitched the pockets from, and I lined up the waist mark with the traced out piece I needed to use and the pattern that actually had the pocket on it, and I just marked where the pocket needed to go. That's how I get my pocket position when I'm using pockets from one pattern onto another. Another thing you can do is, this is the pattern piece for the heart pocket. But what I did is I took the original heart pattern that I'd used, and I took it to my scanner, and I actually blew my heart pockets up a bit this year. So these are bigger than the ones that came with the other pattern. So I made these bigger by just increasing the size on my scanner, and then I printed this off and cut it out. So that's something you can do if you want a bigger heart or a circle or whatever. Yes, you can do. Well, all of that is covered in Mari's video, but the pockets can be patch pockets applied to the front, or if you are into it, you can do the side seam pockets. Little girls would probably manage patch pockets easier. Just might. And your pockets can be any shape, any size, as long as there's one or two on the front. Okay? So that's about the pockets. And I'm just going to now go over some things that I do so that I'm on my own here. And I'm going to lift you guys up now. It's just me sewing here. My son could come flying through. We don't want that. What I do is I spend a week, maybe two, just cutting out dresses. Now, everybody's going to freak out by the number of dresses I've made, and I still have 2 left to do. But what I do is that first week, I do nothing but cut out. Nothing but cut out. All right? And so I'll put all the dresses that use red thread, I'll put them in a stack together, and I'll sew them all at once. And what I mean is I look at my processes in my pattern. So I get one of the pocket pieces. Let me back up. One of my pocket pieces for each dress is set aside in a stack, because the first thing I do is load pink thread onto my sewing machine and I apply all the labels on every single pocket. And then I take those pocket pieces and I put them back in the stack. And then I match them up. You can see where the label is right here. These are right sides together, and I'm just going to show you what I do. I pin these together, and the reason these two pins are in sideways, that's where I need to leave an opening. And I do that for both pockets, because you're going to have an outer fabric and a lining fabric. And I'll do that for every pocket in the stack. And then I do all the shoulder seams. I get the shoulder seams all pinned and I put them in the stack. I've got the inner fabric, outer fabric, lining fabric. That's the fronts and the backs at the shoulder. And I also leave the skirts in the stack because they have to be stay stitched at the top. So as you're going through, like if I had more of these, I'm down to the last two dresses. This is a kind of a light green aqua. If I had more of them, what I would do is they would all be in one stack and I could just run them through. So I do the pockets, I do the shoulder seams, I do the stay stitching, and then I'd recreate my pile and I'd just keep going, and I would go and I'd do any trimming or pressing, and I'd get up the next step all pinned together and I just run them through. So it's like production, and that's how you can make more dresses faster if you think about using what color thread you're going to have in the machine. If you have to switch your thread in and out, that's going to make it a slower process for you. If you don't have quite enough fabric for like the skirt, and I'll show you this again in a little bit, I picked a point here and I kind of just folded this up. Let me just kind of show you. Something like this. And shortened the skirt by a bit. And then I just brought this out even. And it actually made the bottom of the skirt flare a little bit more. And that's okay. It makes it better spinning. Okay. Now to get your length back, add a ruffle. And I'll show you that. I made one dress like this because I had one bit of fabric that I didn't have quite enough for the full length of the skirt. And then I had to rob a piece out of my quilting fabric to make the ruffle. So let me say good morning to everybody. There's Janet Nash and Melanie and Ann. And let's see. Blanket hellos from Lala. So that's how I make so many. So now let's just talk about how you can make it fun for yourself and the girls. My dress is not reversible. The only thing that's a double thickness is the bodice area. The skirt is a single layer. Now you could add additional skirt pieces if I'd had more fabric, I could have made these all reversible. But these are not reversible dresses. These are straight up dresses. Just want to make that clear because you're going to see the lining on some of these. So if you want to, and the first few are all going to be matchy-matchy in honor of my mother-in-law, who's going to be 98 next month, and my sister, my youngest sister, is very into matchy-matchy. So I did some in honor of those two because they always go, why do you make the pockets so different? And so Rhonda and Julia, these dresses are for you. Not that they watch my videos. So matchy-matchy is okay as long as you can see the label. And so the outer of this dress is all the same. So all the outside fabric for the pockets and the bodice and the skirts are all the same. And then you'll see the lining is a striped fabric and the lining on the pocket is the striped fabric. So if you want to go matchy-matchy, that's okay. They turn out cute too. So I'm going to hang as many as I can on my rack, one side at a time here, because it gets heavy. Here's another matchy one. And it's got unicorns on it and castles. I might have to stand up to get these on here. This one is another matchy. I'll figure out where to put them. Sorry, I'm having to stand up and turn my back to you. I'm just hanging these up to get them out of the way. But I wanted to share them because Maddie's probably not going to, be able to share all my dresses because she's getting a lot of dresses in. She does box openings on Wednesdays and Saturdays. And again, this is just a pattern I absolutely love. And someone made a comment that said, it looks like the armholes are big enough to where they could wear a t-shirt under it. And they could. Here's another matchy with the butterflies. The only thing that's a major requirement is the label has to be on the front of the dress, you guys, not in the back like clothing tags. Oh, that's something else I needed to note. I went on Amazon and I ordered some size 5 labels. They just have a number 5 on them. And I just tacked them in the back. So these are all labeled with the size 5. And all of my dresses are size 5. But you can make different sizes. And they always run out of sizes 10 and 12. Here's one that's matchy with the checker on the inside. And for all us art people. And most of my fabric has come from Joann Fabrics, which I don't know what I'm going to do in the future for fabric. I'll have to get creative. And I've also got some that are from fabric I have thrifted. So there's that. All right, another one that's matchy. And this one's the check with ladybugs on the inside, or ladybirds as y'all call them. Morning, Vicki. And some flamingos. My rack it's been leaning in the corner. There's a retro dot. This about did my eyeballs in, but it's cute. I think I made like 14 that were matchy, and then I got creative. And the creative business is what I want to really share with you guys. Let's move it back so there's like 2 in each slot here. We need room. Hopefully this thing won't collapse on me. All right, so say you don't have enough fabric for the whole dress to be in one fabric on the outside. Don't worry about it. Pick a fabric, say a fabric for the bodice, okay? Then look at the colors in that pattern that's on that fabric and go to your stash and just find something in that color. Now, I bought some fabric out of the remnant bin at Joann's, and I just looked for pieces that were close to a full yard, and that's how I got this dress. So this dress has a different bodice and pockets, but then the lining and the skirt, because I had more of this green than I did the blue, that's how I created this one. So don't be afraid to mix your fabrics. And the key is to always make sure that the color is represented in the bodice area that you use in the skirt. That's all you have to do. Just make sure that some of that same color is in both areas, and it doesn't matter. You can mix and match the prints and everything. Okay, and here I've done different cats. So there's cats with geraniums, and then there's just the tone-on-tone kitty cats. And you can see I just mixed it all up there. All right. Now this one, I wanted to use the colors on the top, and then I had, these are kitty cat faces. Now Marty had said, where's kitty cats? Because there's always cats show up. And I said, hold on, one moment, please. And so I have a section coming up that's a lot of cats. So this one is just a really fun, kind of a celebratory looking dress, lined with the cats and everything. Let's stick that back here. I'm trying to keep a balance on this so it doesn't flip. All right, and this is a watermelon dress. And again, this is one where I didn't have very much of the watermelon fabric, but I wanted to use it. And then I had this solid red. So it goes, it's really, it's close enough. And so it's lined with the red, and then the skirt's red, and then the bodice is the same front and back. And the reason I said that is it's going to get different. All right, here's another kitty cat dress. And you can see the label is on there. And this cat fabric is so cute. And then there's the kitty cats like in gardens hiding. Can you see all the kitties? So Monty will be happy to see all the kitties in this box. All right, now here's one that I didn't have a whole lot of this fabric, and I wanted something to go with the red and white stripes, and I thought this was pretty good. And what I had is I had enough for several bodices, but nowhere near enough for the skirts. The skirt pieces take about 1 1/4 yards alone. That's why I did not do double-sided, because I didn't have enough of the fabrics I was using to make them completely reversible. But yeah, so there's this cutie. All right, now this one, I didn't have quite enough to get the back section in ladybugs. So what I did is I had a whole bunch of this red and white stripe. So that's how it ended up. The pockets are lined in ladybugs. The inside is lined in the stripe. And then the back is entirely striped because I didn't have enough ladybugs to do it. But it's still an adorable dress. So don't be afraid to mix and match your fabrics. Here's another kitty cat in 2 different prints. See, I've got when I mix the cat prints, I just try to keep them close in the same colors, and you can get more kitties hiding out that way. And then the back is the same half and half bodice, and so on. Let's see here. All right, we're getting there. All right, here's the strawberry dress. And I wish I had more of this strawberry fabric because I would make myself a dress out of this. And then I paired it with just a red and white pinstripe. And I made that bodice half and half. So this side, the outside and the lining is all striped. And on this side, the lining and the outside is all strawberries. And then the pockets are the striped, but they're lined with strawberries because all of my pockets are lined. All right, here we go. More kitty cats. And a lot of this fabric is fabric I bought when I worked at Joann's over 20 years ago. So a lot of this has been just sitting in my stash. So I shopped my own stash. I did not go out and buy all this fabric all at once. No. This is my paycheck from 20 years ago. So anyway, there's that one matched with little paw prints. This thing may start to screen. All right. And now here, this one is really odd because I've got the birds on a gray background. And if I remember right, I thrifted this fabric. But this bit was a remnant from Joann's. And I said, well, this is gray, just a lighter gray. And I think that looks just fine. So don't be afraid to mix your fabrics up. Now this one's one of my favorites because isn't it gorgeous with the paisley and this other? And again, I went into the paisley print and I looked in my stash for something that was really close in color only. I'm not worried about matching the prints, and you can see what a cute dress that turns out when you just keep your colors similar. And you can get some really cute dresses without a lot of work. You just have to pick one color that you can pull into the next. Now I have two here that are exactly the same. So if somebody had twins, these are matchy each other, but the bodice is a half and half with these are Kaufman cats. I'd love to have dresses made by Becky. Let's see. Let's see how bad it tilts. Not too bad. All right, we're getting close to the bottom of the basket, and I have the last four is hanging off. Now this one, again, I searched my stash for a fabric that had that same kind of blue that the fish do. And that's how I came up with this one, half and half bodice again. Now this one you really have to stretch your imagination on how I got there. But it's kitties, and it's a half and half, and the pink in here really came close to this pink. So that's why I did this as a match. And I think it looks okay. This one I did a black and white doodle cats with the real life the colors of kitties. Again, using from my stash. Oh, excuse me. And then I've got tigers, and this was two different prints. And I think it turned out really cute. And then this has got the beach kitties. I do need to let Marty know that I didn't notice this until I was halfway through sewing it. But there are English words on some of the little things on here. So you might have to find a special home for this one. We're getting dicey here. It's like, will it hold? Will it hold? All right, now this one's funny because I have that tiger fabric with the little tigers, but then I paired it with household kittens. So this one's a little, yeah. And I blew the pockets up this year to make them a little bit bigger. so they can carry more. Now, let's look at the last 4 that I just finished. Something else I almost forgot. When you get to your hems, you can add lace, or I don't know if you're going to be able to see it on here. Use your decorative stitches on your hems. So there's this one, and please don't fall. And then this, I had a lot of this green with the little pigs and puppies and things jumping out of balloons and stuff. And then I just paired it with this fat quarter or piece of fabric that was kind of the greens. And I think it's close enough. And again, I used a fancy stitch off my sewing machine. And here's this one. Now, I remember buying this fabric at Joann's just before they were announcing that they might be closing. And this was on the bargain table, and the 2 pieces were there together. And I thought, you know, those 2 pieces would make a cute dress. So they're the same colors. One's floral, one's dots. And I think it turned out really cute. This thing is groaning. And then there's this one. And this one, I had to utilize 3 different fabrics. So the lining is a stripe. The outer is this cool leaf print. And then the skirt is the monkeys. Because I didn't have enough of any one of these other 2 up here to make the skirts. So I had the monkeys. And I think it's adorable. Ouch. Let's see here. Please don't fall. And the last dress in the tub is the one I talked about when you shorten the skirt to get the skirt pieces out of a smaller piece of fabric, and then you add a ruffle. This is what you get. And you can see this skirt is fuller at the bottom. And I just added a ruffle with strips of fabric that I gathered slightly. And to where the ruffle and the other seam is, I ironed it up toward the dress, and then I just used a decorative stitch to hold that against the dress instead of using a serged edge, because if I'd serged it, then this would have poked right back into their little knees. So by doing it, pressing it up and attaching it to the dress, it's smooth there. So if they're crawling around or, you know, just running and playing, they're not going to get poked by a serged piece or anything. So, and this one's got 1, 2, 3, 4 fabrics in it, because it's lined with that red and white stripe that I said I had a lot of. This is that piece that I didn't have enough to do skirts out of, but I could get several tops out of. And then the pockets, and the pockets are lined in the red and white stripe. And then the yellow was something I had to dig in my stash for. So that is my Project Dress-A-Girl dresses for this year. The last 2 dresses have, I'll take a pin out. It's got a batik and then this pretty butterfly print here that's just like the yellow one I showed at the beginning. So there's that dress here. And then the very last dress is right here. I'm trying to pick up a pocket so I can open it a little bit so you can see the 2 prints. And I have a paisley print that I picked up at the thrift store. And then I have this navy polka dot with it. So that'll be the last 2 dresses. So in total, there will be 40 dresses going to Madi this year. I was trying to use my labels up. I still have 4 Project Dress-A-Girl labels, If you're new and you would like to join in and you would want just one label, I can send out a label to people if you just let me know. If you want one or two, all I've got is 4 labels, but I'm willing to share those because I've done such a push this year. I'm going to kind of leave it open for next year. I don't know if I'll do it or not. It is something that I really love to do because I grew up with very little. And so I understand how precious a handmade garment or something brand new to me was. And I didn't always get brand new. I got hand-me-downs from cousins and things like that, which is fine, perfectly fine. There is so many clothes on this planet that none need to be made for decades. If you go to the thrift stores, the place is full of stuff. Um, so yeah, I'm trying to not purchase new clothing anymore because there are so many in thrift shops and I can sew my own clothes, and I'm going to work my way through my stash and try not to buy brand new fabric very often anymore. I need to do up all these projects I have and utilize what I have here. Um, yeah, so that's my project, Dress a Girl. Here's the little icon for it again. We're super women. We're super people because gentlemen sew too. And find a pattern that you love and trace it so you can continually use it. Because after this has been cut out more than 40 times, the edges are starting to turn up, and where the pinholes are, it's getting really weak. And I might have to trace out another size 5. But I'm done with cutting out for this year at least. And I hope everybody's enjoyed seeing what I've made. And I want everybody to have fun. I just offered a challenge in one of the videos to encourage people with their sewing, and somebody took it as I was condemning people for only doing like one dress, and that is not me. If you only want to do 1 or 2 dresses, that's 1 or 2 more little girls that get a dress. And I just like it to have a little bit of competition for those of us that do a bunch of sewing. And I'm fortunate to have this stash. So please don't take offense when I say, how are you doing? Or how many have you made? That's just a little jokey way of me to encourage you to keep going. Because once you start, you can't stop. Ask me how I know. This is my 5th year doing this. And this has been a blast this year. And I will look forward to chatting with you guys in another video. And I will be back on Wednesday. Hopefully I'll have these all in their box and off to Madi before then, so that I'll have a clean table and we can play. Yes, Melanie, they are super addictive, and it's so much fun mixing the fabrics and coming up with really fun little dresses and the reason I really love this pattern is the skirt flares. It's really great for twirling, and what girl doesn't like to twirl, right? So take care, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.